Did you guys know Wynncraft had a major issue before 2.0 released? Wynncraft used to have horrible replayability. Thankfully in 2.0, this is fixed. Salted just broke down what went into the skill tree of Wynncraft 2.0. So let's look at it and see everything that went into this. So what really constitutes something being fixed in 2.0? First of all, lots of bugs were fixed, but overall the main thing that people didn't realize they wanted to change was the way the game progressed. So when a new player starts on Wynncraft, you have to go through the tutorial. After you're recruited by the king, you're pretty much free to go wherever you want. With the exception of quests guiding you, you can wander the entire world wherever you want to go. Most players obviously stick to the Emerald Trail, Nivell Woods, Dallas at the beginning. However, progression after the Wynn province gets quite tricky. Up until this point, there really is no problem with Wynncraft's progression. However, there used to be a problem at about 50 and up. If you guys didn't know, level 75 used to be the max level in Wynncraft until Gavel upped it to 101. Inherently, these updates are not really bad for the game. But when it comes down to the game development aspect, some things may be overlooked or just skipped in general to save time. The Wynncraft community is constantly waiting for the next update, and unfortunately puts a lot of pressure on the dev team to get updates out in a timely manner. What this can lead to is some shortcomings. While although it's not really their fault, they're just trying to please the community, certain things may be left out. When it comes to Gavel, there was absolutely, at the time, easily the biggest update, and adding the province of Gavel really was Wynncraft 2.0 at the time. The one problem here, which has compounded over time, is that there really was not too much game progression after level 75, which used to be the cap. As Salted stated in his forum post, it was his #1 priority to get this fixed. So basically, with putting all this effort into the map, into the awesome quests that are in Gavel, some things had to be overlooked, and not that it's really overlooked, it would have to be a complete overhaul if anything wanted to be changed. So that's where the ability tree comes in 2.0. This would have been way too much to implement in any other previous update. If this was just part of a smaller update, it wouldn't have been polished enough to really, add to the game. 2.0 took a lot of time and it was totally worth it. They balanced these out pretty well. Have thousands of different combinations that you can use. Tons of different awesome new features. So there really is no problem with class progression at higher levels anymore. Salted's next complaint was that spells were outdated. Some spells being out for nearly a decade with no fundamental changes happening to them ever. With the exception of Shaman, obviously, which did add a lot of playability. So yes, with this update, they added tons of new spells with the skill tree in mind, tons of new avenues, which they call archetypes. Also, as a side note, the particle effects are just amazing. The particles are nice unless you have a GT710.
What are you saying about my graphics card?
Oh, nothing. Just do PQ0. So props to everyone who worked on the skill tree, abilities, classes. So yeah, it's just amazing how many different abilities each of the 5 classes has now. It really does add an indefinite amount of builds and play styles, even for the lower levels, which we'll get to next. So the third point that Salted states here, he mentions how lower level players weren't really able to create builds in the mid game. I really was not aware that this was the case, and I also did think builds were strictly for endgame. But yeah, it makes sense why he wouldn't want new players, being told to just wait till the end game to get a build done. It personally took me many years to get to the end game, and I didn't even know builds were a thing, to be honest. So for the skill tree, I really want to emphasize how this is something that, has to be churned out. It is not something you can finish within weeks. Game development is not what it seems like from the outside. Every single one of the nodes had to be written out, the idea passed around, the actual ability balanced, and they all have to work together to create these archetypes. You can see diagrams here where Salted is, just making a rough map of where he wants it to go. So overall, I think the skill tree is a massive W. Removing on-level chests, I don't know about. Just kidding. That totally makes sense. It was used and abused. So how is everything improved in this update? Well, number one, you get skill points to fill up the skill tree all until level 104. No longer are you just capped at level 75 with putting skills into your skill points, and that's it. Yeah, scratch that. Spell upgrades. So luckily now you can upgrade your skill tree up until level 104. Rather than before, you'd be stuck with spell upgrades up until around mid-50s. And these upgrades were predetermined and not able to be chosen by the player. What else? So yes, the spells are still almost the same. However, lots of particle effects were added, lots of new spells, new spell mechanics, completely, like, you know, when you use the spell, something completely different happens. In the third issue, as Salted says, not completely resolved. I mean, I don't even know if it really is an issue, but if you're not planning to play till level 100 plus, people should be able to make their own builds. And yes, you can do that now with the skill tree. You can choose these different unique effects, even at lower levels, if you use your ability points correctly. However, in my opinion, you don't really need builds at lower levels as long as you have enough HP. So what do you guys think about 2.0 overall? I think every class had an amazing update. My one complaint is that you did have to set up the skill tree on every class after the update, although that's very minor, and you know, after a couple days all your classes will be all set. And again, please don't expect updates to be grand, quick, you know, as massive as this one from now on. I'm not sure how many devs there are, but hey, if you're looking for another developer, I'm here. Or, I mean, maybe in a couple of years once I'm actually qualified. So no longer are the days where Wynncraft will be as stale as it used to be at times. I know myself and other people included who went through phases of absolute addiction to the game and then just not playing it at all. So I know I'm not the first to cover the update, but I think it was cool looking at what Salted had to say about the intern. Wait, what the hell was that? Yo, I got a double jump on this class? Yo, ninja, are you serious? See, I didn't know that. I had no idea that there was a double jump ability. You know, that shows you how much I play Assassin. Either way, I wanted to cover this because I thought it was cool seeing what Salted had to say about the update. From his perspective, Wynncraft, please fix invisible chests. Anyway, there's still bugs, nothing's perfect, but you know, the server is very well updated at this point. Thank you, Salted, and all devs a part of the update. Now I'm going to set up my booth in Trums where nobody will be able to afford the items.